Space is the final frontier. Well, actually, in primary care, actually, it's the one thing we're lacking of the most, and many practices are struggling to find the space to work from. I think remote consultations offers new opportunities for people to have to use less space within the buildings, but many practices are still looking at how can they create better hubs in their practices, particularly for staff that do want to come to the practice and use that effectively. One of the many challenges we have is that trying to build new space in practice is a real problem and very expensive because of the regulations that we have to adhere to, and as a result of various other issues with properties and that kind of stuff, may be something that just cannot happen. Well, in this episode, I'm going to cover a couple of quick options that you may want to consider in terms of trying to create more space in practice. And I'm going to review a product that many of you may have heard of, but not had the opportunity to see. And I have, because you can only see this in one place in the entire country. That's the Room booth. And I'm going to show you what it looks like, what it sounds like, and why you may want to consider this for your practice. Shall we get straight to the episode? Let's tech enhance your primary care and learning. If this is the first time I'm meeting, I'm Dr. Gandalf of EGP Learning, where I look at supporting you with technology enhanced primary care and learning. And in this episode, we're going to have a look at various different things you may want to consider trying to make more space in your practice for people to work from in terms of clinical and administrative work. Because of the significant shift we've seen in primary care, many opportunities now exist for people to work remotely, and remembering to work from the home environment may be a really good option that you can consider. It's important to remember that the IG elements of things has to be in line, so to prevent things like WannaCry and that kind of stuff happening again to primary care, or whether you're working in practice. But working from home may be a really good opportunity to expand the space that you have in practice whilst not actually using the space in practice. If you want to check that out, I've got some videos that are coming up right here that you may want to have a look at to support you with that. Additionally, you may want to check out my quick tips in terms of working remotely in general practice right here. But what if you've made that decision that you do want to stay in your practice, in your building, but create more opportunity for space for those to work in your area? This is a real challenge. And this can be for a variety of different reasons. Maybe too expensive, maybe because you don't actually own the property and are renting, and as a result of that, have challenges in terms of changing the internal space, or just maybe you don't have enough space anyway. One opportunity that is coming is as a result of the GP contract changes, the digitization of medical records is going to happen over the next year or so. And as a result of that, many practices may find that they will have increased space because they're not having to store the physical notes any longer. It's all digitized, you don't need to keep them. But then the question is, what do you do with that space? Again, for many practices, those spaces are going to be in the administrative part of their practice, or it may be in a part that just isn't suitable for clinically seeing patients. Well, remote consultations offers the opportunity to turn those spaces into clinical environments because you don't actually have the patient in the room. So that can be for things like online consultations, telephone consultations, and video consultations. Alternately, they could be clinical administrative hubs for things like prescribing areas, referral management, various other functions that practices are doing. But the main issue is going to be confidentiality of patient information, particularly if you've got multiple people in those areas. So how can you improve that? Well, a quick tip is to use noise cancelling headsets. I talk about this a lot when we do things like video consultations and things. However, if you're working in a crowded environment, having noise cancelling headsets will reduce this ambient sound that's happening in the area and therefore help to protect against patient confidentiality if you've got multiple people working in the same area. It uses the principle of two microphones, one that captures the sound from the person speaking and another microphone that then captures the sound from the ambient room, and then through mechanics in the microphone cancels that out so that you get better sound transfer from the person that's speaking and less uptake of the ambient sound. A lot of mobile phones use this technology, and actually things like the Apple AirPods are really good at doing this. However, if you're trying to do this in practice, you may want to consider specific headsets that allow this to work. If you're using just a computer system, my preferred one is something called the Empower headset. It's really easy to get a hold of, work through Bluetooth, so it will work no matter which device as long as you've got Bluetooth. And to be honest, it just works. It also comes in two versions, double headset or single headset, and I think it works really, really well. There are other options you can consider. A lot of gaming headsets are really good for this, and in particular, check out the SteelSeries Arctis, as well as anything made pretty much by Jabra pretty much works. However, if you're using mainly a telephone-based system, things like the Mitel systems or those kind of things, you may need a specific adapter that allows you to connect to those. In that situation, I use headsets created by a company called OneTech that just works effectively as a headset, and the sound transfer is pretty decent. If you're interested in either of those products, check out the links below. They are affiliated links, so if you do use them, you get a teeny amount, but at no extra cost to yourself. If not, just Google them. You'll be able to grab them easily from there. So that's a quick and easy fix many practices can consider because it's really low in cost in terms of investment. And to be honest, it improves your communication with patients as well because you get better sound transfer. But what if you want to do more? Well, you may want to consider enclosures that allow better acoustic soundproofing. Now, there are various different ways you can do this, and there are various companies you can explore of doing this. And you may even want to do that locally. One of the challenges many practices will have is, generally speaking, we have hard floors, bare walls, and to be honest, they're echo chambers. If you can have additional stuff in the rooms, so soft furnishings, cloth on the walls, that kind of stuff, that will help to massively sound dampen the areas. And particularly, you can look at things called diffusion devices that you can have freestanding in the area that reduce the sound transfer and things. This does get a little bit more complicated. So I will put some links to other videos you may want to consider if you want to look at this in more detail. But basically, uneven surfaces work really, really well. If you want to specifically look at enclosures though, the one I would suggest you consider is something called a room booth. So you can check these out at room.com. And the best way I can describe these are giant phone booths. They're freestanding, ventilated, and soundproofed. And you can even assemble them in practice. You don't necessarily have to have someone come off and do that. So consider it an IKEA project for your staff. Each standard booth is 225 centimeters tall, 104 centimeters wide, and 109 centimeters in depth. And with the door open, that adds another 104 centimeters. The door itself is made from plexiglass, so pretty sturdy. And the enclosures themselves are made from wood, steel, and PET. Do not ask me to explain what PET is. I can't say the word. But what these booths offer is soundproofed, ventilated enclosures that you can easily do an online consultation from, or a telephone consultation, or even a video consultation. They have an electric port, Ethernet cable, and a small work desk inside. They are a little snug, and I will be honest, may not be designed for those with disabilities, particularly wheelchairs and things. But if you did have an area that was 3.5 meters by 2.5 meters, you could easily fit 3 of these booths in, and you just created 3 clinical areas for you to discuss patient details with. I'm guessing you want to have a look. But the challenge we have right now in the UK, there's only one showroom in the entire country where you can actually physically go see this product. And that's by appointment only. So I kind of went and had a look for you guys. In the first video, you're going to see the outside of a room booth. And I've intentionally left the ambient sound on. It's an interesting little ditty, so check it out so you can hear what the room was like before I went into the booth. Let's have a look at that now. So that's the room booth from the outside. Take a note of the sound, okay? Now we're going to have a look at the room booth from inside. I'm also going to show you some of the ports and stuff, and let me know what you think of the difference in sound quality. Let's get to that now. Hey EGP learners, so I'm inside something called a room, which is kind of like a portable phone booth that you can use potentially in practices to act as a secluded area for consultations, whether that's telephone or video. It's an interesting piece of kit that potentially you could be used in places where you've got estate issues, in the sense that it's not too big, but it's soundproofed, so there's a massive reduction in sound because of the proofing and things. And it's got available options for power, so if I have a little look down here, you can just about see it, hopefully. Just there. And it has magnetic boards and pretty cozy, but ideal for telephone and video consultations that you could run through this system. And we're back. So what did you think? Was that a noticeable difference for you? Do you think that's enough to work from a clinical area? I do. I think it's reasonable enough, and particularly if you have headsets and stuff, then it's going to work quite well. The space is a little bit tight, but it is enough to put a laptop in, as well as you can have an additional phone set if you needed to. I think if you were to consider these things like printers and stuff, you're going to have to use Wi-Fi connected printers or network connected printers in order for that to work effectively, because trying to put a printer in there is not going to be ideal. But you can easily create additional space within your practice that you can use for things like online consultations, telephone consultations, video consultations, as well as clinical admin areas like prescribing, referrals, and other kind of stuff really. And the real benefit is that it's hot desking done really, really well. It's not one specific person's room. If you just need to use it for a short period of time, you can do that. And I think this offers opportunity to practices to use an adaptive space effectively and easily. And you could even use these as standing desks in your practice. And you all know my love of standing desks in general practice. And if you don't, check out this video right here. So I do think this is a really good option for practices to consider. At £3,900 plus VAT, it's not too expensive when you consider the other options of developing and building new rooms in practice. And it comes with a 100-day money-back guarantee. So you can actually trial it for 100 days. If it doesn't work, send it back. Important to note, because of the current health crisis, delivery times approximately 2 to 3 weeks if they've got them in stock, about 4 to 6 weeks if they don't. They are self-build. You can pay for other people to build them if you want to. Not sure on the cost on that, I'm afraid. If you want to have a look at this, check out the links below. It'll take you to the website where you can have a look at the product in more detail. It's not an affiliated link, to be clear on that point, so I get nothing at all if you use it. Just want to share it with you guys. But what do you think? How would you consider improving this space in your practice? I think this provides real opportunity and definitely worth considering. If you have any further comments or questions or want any more details, feel free to contact me on whichever social media platform you prefer, especially Twitter at drgandalf52. As always, if you are listening on the podcast, make sure you subscribe and definitely leave a review on iTunes. And on YouTube, definitely subscribe, ring the bell, get notified of all of our content and stuff. And as always, EGP Learning is here to help save you and your patients time by enhancing your primary care and learning. Catch you in the next episode.